All right, good morning and welcome to Blackwing Trading. We are a futures trading channel. I'd like to welcome you to my channel. If this is your first time here. My name is Clinton, and I am a futures trader with Topstep, funded trader with Topstep. On this channel, you're going to see pre-market analysis, live trading, good and bad, so you can see. My goal is so you can see that this is something that's attainable. If you are interested in trading, you're interested in beginning to take this journey to see if, okay, can I do this? Yes, you can do this. And hopefully you can get some encouragement along the way by looking at my channel. So I want to get directly into the charts like I normally do every morning. We're in on the 4-hour chart. I chart on Thinkorswim, and just to see the big trends of what's happening so far. So this week we started off actually like with a little pullback on this week from yesterday. We went up and then pulled back in anticipation for the CPI data just below 6,400, around about 63.88, 63.90. But this morning, the CPI, Consumer Price Index inflation read, came out, and it was at the estimates. And so inflation went up 0.2. So that put us at 2.7. And that was what the estimates were going to be, at 2.7 to 2.8. And so whenever there's an estimate out there of numbers and the numbers beat the estimate, usually the market likes that. So there's usually an initial reaction. And so the market traded up really high this morning, like 30 points up to 64.40. And now it's pulling back a little bit to the 64.20s. But that was the read for this morning. So the market did like that. So we can see that here in 64.20, 64.25 is kind of where it's sitting at now. That's a known level. I follow price action, and so these lines and shaded areas on the chart are areas of support, resistance, price levels that the index has traded at over time. And so I put those on my chart so I know how to plan my trades. And so it went up to 64.40, pulled back, and then now it's at like the 64.20s. So with that being said, let's talk about key levels that I'm looking at today. So I am looking at the 64.20s, 64.25, especially after the inflation read. That's a significant area for the day. Now, if it continues to pull back, I'm expecting to pull back somewhere between here, which is 64.07, which was a previous high, like last week, I think, or like 2 weeks ago, for the S&P 500 futures. So it could pull back there and then trade in that area. It's recognized that area multiple times, and so it could pull back there. That's the area I'll be looking at if it trades down. Then it could pull down to 6,400. Pulled around in that area yesterday, traded plus or minus 10 points around 6,400. So 6,400 is a psychological level, so it definitely could trade right there. So I'm looking at that, and I mean, I don't expect it to pull back that hard, but if it does, it could even pull back as far as the 63.70s, 63.75. And so you can see we've traded around that area a couple of days ago, and it's recognized that price level. I'm going to take this to the 1 hour so you can see a little bit more price action on the 1 hour. So you can see there, this is the 64.7 area that I was telling you about that it traded around. And it touched that overnight, played around that in 6,400 until we had this big inflation, this big candle right here. It was when the inflation data came out. And so that's what I'm looking at right now. But like I told you before, we could pull back even as low as the 63.70s. I don't expect that, but it could. Let the market tell us what it's going to do, though. I always let the market tell me what it's going to do. Don't necessarily anticipate, but see where the price action is moving and then take a trade in that direction. Now, if it goes higher, it could go back up to the 64.40s where it traded it when it had that big pop for the inflation read. And so that's definitely an area that it could trade to. And the all-time highs, it could trade up even as high as 64.60s, 64.50s, 64.60s. That's the all-time highs. So it could trade up even up to that area. So I'm just going to stand by and see what it does. The way it looking like what it's doing now, it had that initial pop, but it looked like it's going to normalize and settle out probably somewhere between 64.10, 64.20s. But like I said, we'll see what the market does. So if it goes up to the upside, we can expect something even as high as that. Let me get into the 5-minute chart, which is what I normally trade on the 5-minute chart. So we can get an idea of what we're looking at now. So as we can see, once it made that big pop, it's aggressively pulling back now. And now it's at 64.20. So you can see it pulling back possibly even to VWAP to 64.15. And then we'll see what it does there. But that is what the price action looks like for this morning after the inflation read from the CPI. So we have another inflation read coming up on Thursday, which is the producer price index. And we also have initial jobless claims. And so it's going to be interesting to see what the market does on that day and see how this data correlates with that data as well. All right. So a couple of areas of the news, things I want to point out. So we had CPI and the number was 2.7. And then the core number, when you take out food and energy, is 3.1. So that actually did creep up a little bit more. So the consensus, what I've been seeing is that inflation, the tariffs are causing inflation, but it's manageable. And most of the retailers and things like that now are assuming the cost and not passing on as much to the consumer. All right. So other things happening this week. We got some Fed speak on tomorrow. Some of the Fed presidents are going to be speaking tomorrow. I talked about on Thursday the initial jobless claims and the core PPI. And then we got retail sales on Friday, which is important too. Because that's a read of how much America is spending. So we are a large base consumer and service society. And so that read for the retail sales is going to be important. The market is going to be paying attention to see how you and I are spending, if we're pulling back or we'll continue to spend the way we normally spend and what the retailers are showing us. So that is what's coming out. We do have a lot of earnings still coming out. You know, it still is earnings season. A lot of the big names have released their earnings. Some of them haven't yet, but a lot of big names have. And so earnings season is still going on today. All right, so I am, as I told you, I am a Topstep trader. I did take a trade already this morning. So you can see here, I am $554 up. I took some of this move up on the CPI print. So got a little profit cushion, and I probably take one trade today, to be honest. When I have a profit cushion like that, you know, I add one trade to it, one or two, but not too much, because that usually my trend is, you know, a lot of times I begin to eat away if I'm over trading. And so got one good trade out at $500, and we're gonna see what we can get out of the 15-minute open range break this morning. All right, so back to the Think or Swim chart. All right, so I want to highlight some of those companies in the S&P 500 index, those top 10 companies. I keep a watch list of these top 10 companies just to highlight some of them, because the S&P 500, when you look at the top 10 companies, they're like, you know, 30% of the entire index. And so when those companies are doing well, the index is trading up. When they're not doing so well, it pulls the index down. So I look at those companies. So the first one, Apple. So Apple has been trading actually a lot higher than they did over the past week. They were down right at 200 and, you know, at the verge of 200 or something below that. And then they announced last week that they were making these investments into the U.S. in manufacturing and some other stuff. And so their stock got a bump from that. And they've been trading actually, you know, pretty well up into the 220s and 230s from that after that announcement. And so Apple stockholders are happy about that. All right, so Tesla has actually been trading up as well. So they're up in the 340s now. They were actually trading, you can see last week, as low as 300, and they've got a little bump on their stock as well. Not sure why. I haven't been following the news on Tesla. Not sure why they have been trading up, but they did get a bump on their stock. NVIDIA, top chip company, is still trading up in the 180s. So interesting thing that happened, NVIDIA and AMD, which is two major chip makers, they made a deal where they're going to sell the NVIDIA H20 advanced chip to China, and AMD is going to sell like their I think it's like the MI 308 chip or something like that for AI. They're going to sell it to China, open it up to selling it to China, and then they're going to give 15% of the income back to the U.S. So China is actually they're against this deal. They're discouraging people from buying it because they're saying that there's some I don't want to say spyware, but there's some remote kind of remote control capabilities in these chips, and they think that we possibly is going to be a security concern for China. So they're discouraging the deal. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen with that. But that deal is where they worked out with the Trump White House to where they're going to sell chips to China and they're going to give 15% back to the U.S. The Google's Google's been trading up in 200s. They're up a little bit, as well. Microsoft still trading in the 520s, and so they've kind of been trading sideways in this area a little bit for a couple of days. They did go higher when they had their earnings, and then they began to pull back to take profits, and so now they're just kind of going sideways, trading in the 520s. Amazon, kind of the same thing, trading in the 220 range. Meta is still holding in the 770s. They got a big bump. They were down at like 690 before their earnings 2 weeks ago. They had a great earnings, and so they shot them up like $70, $80. Got as high as the 780s, and so now they're in the 770s, and so they're still holding that move. And then JP Morgan, which is the largest bank in the world, they're in the 290s. So that's the top 10 in the S&P 500. That list fluctuates, here and there. And you also have Broadcom. Broadcom is in that list as well. They're trading in the 300s. Broadcom is a big chip maker in the U.S. as well. So those are what those companies look like. All right, so we're just waiting for the market to open. A couple other companies, hot players. So Oklo had their earnings yesterday. I mentioned that on the stream, and they kind of missed their earnings a little bit, and so they actually began to pull back. They were trading at like as high as $85, and now it's pulling back to below $70. And so maybe a good time, maybe if you believe in Oklo, and Oklo is a great nuclear power company, to get in while they're pulling back and then ride it back up.
$6.99 each. So while your family may not always agree on which music to play at home.
All right, so let's go back to the S&P 500 index. And we're back on a 5-minute chart. And we're just going to see what the price action is like after the open. Do a 15-minute open range break and see can we make some more money on this morning. And that is the opening bell. So we got to push back up a little bit. Thought it was going to push up, but it actually is kind of in the middle and down. So there's some indecision around the 9 EMA, 64.23, 64.25. All right, we're coming up on that first candle. And we can see there's definitely now caught this footing with a strong push up. The market definitely wants to trade up. Hesitating at 64.35 right now. The way it's looking, it wants to pop back through 64.40. Maybe a little bull back down. Hmm. 15-minute open range rank allows this price action to settle out. Make this a little bit bigger here. All right, looks like it's pushing up, starting to push up a little bit now. We're gonna get ready to start drawing after this third candle. When the third candle starts, we're gonna get ready to draw out this 15-minute range. Let's see what happens at 64.40. Got a new candle coming up in about 20 seconds. Okay, that's that new candle. And we're gonna see what this move is. Right now, I'm gonna draw it out at 60 because it got up basically to 64.40. So draw out this area now. And I'm gonna edit these properties so it can go out. I draw it out for the entire day so that I can see it as a trade. Okay, so now that's tentatively our 15-minute opening range. And so I look for a trade if it makes a definitive move above or below that line and take the trade. Usually like to take a confirmation candle as well to make sure that it's going in that direction. The rectangle just provides a visual cue for me, so I know that if it's in this area where that shaded area, that's what I call the caution area. Usually don't like to trade in that range, but if it's above it, I'm taking a 15-minute range break. Above that, we trade in that range, and we're trading it below it. Now, it doesn't have as much room to the upside as it does to the downside. And so that's something I'm always looking at. If you go out to a bigger scale, let's say we go out to a 30-minute chart. If I go out to the 30-minute chart, you can see, well, okay, the all-time highs are 64.68, and we're at 64.40 now, which is just like 28 points below that. So, you know, if it starts going up, you're like, okay, 64.50, maybe 64.60, and then caution why it's going up because, you know, that's a resistance area. Whereas on the bottom side, if it starts going down, then you're like, okay, yeah, 6,400, 64,375, and, you know, you have a lot more room to the downside within the range that's been trading. Like earlier last week, it got as low as a 62.30s. So it got really low, and then it got to the 63.20s was another range it got to as well. And so it could go down much further than it could go up. So I pay attention to those things when I'm taking the trade as well. We're going to come up on the end of this third candle shortly and see what happens. All right, there's a pullback. A lot of selling coming in here. It's almost at VWAP now. We're touch VWAP just a little bit below it. Now it's trading back up. So all right, here's that third candle. See what it does at VWAP.
You can get 2 medium, 2 topping pizzas for only $6.99 each. So while your family may not always agree on which music to play,
That was a pretty strong pullback on that last candle. Fell below the 9 EMA. Okay, we're gonna see if it's gonna push back up. Look like it may push back up. It's pulling down now. Yo, it's pushing below VWAP now. No, it's pushing outside of the range. We got another candle coming up shortly. I want to make sure that that it's going to trade on this downtrend. All right, here comes this next candle. Let's see what we got. Oh, it's pushing down. All right, so I'm in a trade right now. Let's see what we got. No, it looks like it's trying to pull back. I have it just above this candle. There's about 262 to make 400.
Order filled.
So it made a move against me going the other direction. No worries. You see if it pulls back up to 64.20 because if it turns around again, I'm comfortable with going back in the same direction. But I'm gonna see what it does here. Okay, it's pushing up. Pushed up the VWAP 64.20. Is it gonna go above that or what? Let's see. Yeah, it looks like it's gonna catch its footing going back up. I don't know though. Let me wait and see because it could go up and then start to go down. I don't like taking trades at the caution area right there because it's entered back into that range, that 15-minute range. And then we want it either above it or below that. Look like it's going back up. It's pulling back the VWAP now, 64.20. And below that. So now, is it going back down? Look like it's headed back down, but I'm gonna take a trade. I'm gonna try to take one at 62.15. Man, looking for it to go down at 64.10. Hesitating.
Order filled.
All right, so there we go. Got a $500 trade right there. So I'm up $7.95, which is a pretty good day. So I'm not gonna push that. I'm not gonna push that. So you can see risk to reward. I lost $260 on that first trade, but made $500 on the second one. So and got it to push down to 64.10 on the downside. Look like it's probably gonna go down. It may bounce off 6,400, but I'm gonna be done trading for the day. That's good enough for me. That's good enough for me. So, all right, well, that's it. 1 hour of trading and up $795, almost $800, and that's a good day for me. So I'm not gonna push it any further. I thank you all for jumping on the stream. If you jumped on the stream. Until we meet again, I'll see you here tomorrow at 8:15 a.m. pre-market analysis, live trading, and hoping that we can make some more money on tomorrow. Thank you again.